welcome and thank you for joining our 10 Cybersecurity Tips for Business webinar. Thanks so much for joining us. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Today, if you have any questions, you feel free to ask them in the chat box. You can type a message there and I'll attempt to answer those as we go along. If there's anything you'd like to hear about in regards to cybersecurity, feel free to ask the question there. And at the end, if we don't get to it, I'll cover those off there. So what is cybersecurity? Well, cybersecurity relates to the security of your computers, business and home networks, online services, mobile devices, phones, tablets, and increasingly this is also including what we call the Internet of Things, but that's appliances and other devices connected to the Internet. For instance, your TV, smart security system, even finding fridges and washing machines. So something there to think about when we're talking about cybersecurity and how we protect devices in this day and age. So is there really a threat? Okay, some nice statistics here. I guess the ones that are important in my mind is certainly that Australia is the second highest country targeted, but also that 60% of the businesses that are attacked are no longer in business within 6 months, which is a pretty frightening statistic. So that's something that I guess we need to take into consideration when we're talking about cybersecurity and its importance in our lives and businesses. We've had lots of real-world examples and issues that we've had to deal with as an IT consultancy. For instance, a large local retailer had a crypto locker infection, and estimated recovery costs from our service, but also from other vendors, etc., was around $7,500 to get them back to where they were prior to the attack. We've also had a regional accountant who had a computer compromised. They had recovery costs of around $600 trying to remove the infection, and also the risk that tax file numbers and financial information from their clients had been compromised. So that one was pretty scary. And then also we had or have had lots of business owners have a home device and they've been unable to cover files that have been compromised, such as family photos and videos and so on. So yes, the threat is real, and there certainly is a risk to any and all business in my mind. Okay, so what are the different types of attack? I won't go through all of these. This is a great resource, the Stay Smart Online Small Business Guide, which goes into some really easy and clear to understand definitions of different types of attack and also some ways to protect yourself. I guess the ones that we see predominantly is ransomware. So ransomware is where someone gets onto your system, encrypts or password locks your files and then asks for a ransom to recover those. So an example of that is crypto locker, which you may have seen in the media, but it's certainly quite debilitating in that it'll lock your files across all your devices and then ask you for a ransom to recover it. And that can range from $700 through to about $2,500 we've seen. And again, no guarantee that those the bad guys will unlock the files once you pay that ransom. So yeah, that one is certainly pretty vicious. The other ones that we see a little bit of is a computer being made part of a botnet, where it's a network of controlled computers that are used for other purposes, such as attacking another website or trying to compromise another system. So that's another one we see a little bit of as well. Okay, so let's get straight into the 10 tips that the reason why you're listening to this webinar. So firstly, emails. This is the predominant way that we see systems get infected. So let's have a little review of this one. It's fairly typical of the types of things that we see and the ways that hackers and attackers try to get onto a system. In this example, we've got an email that's sent to me. Some of the things there are pretty switched on. It's the right address for us. It looks to be in a reasonable format, but a couple of things stand right out there. Firstly is that the email address is different to the person it's pretending to be from. So in this instance, it says Dean Armstrong. The email address is megankyle@cox.net. Now, Cox is an internet provider, a bit like Telstra, based in the US, and we certainly don't receive correspondence from anyone who uses that network. So that's the first thing that stands out for us. Second thing is that I'm pretty certain I didn't spend $1,856 with Cricket Australia. I am a cricket fan, but not that much of a fan. So a couple of red flags that come out there. But look, the way they work is that the attachment is really where the badness is and where the bad guys try to get into your system. By double clicking that attachment, they have what's called a payload, and that payload then goes and either starts encrypting your files or installing applications, taking control of your system, or reporting back to the bad guys' servers. So in this instance, it's pretty straightforward that this is a bad email, and first advice is to delete it. As I say to all people, if you're uncertain of an email, delete it. If someone needs to get you or get an invoice to you, they will call or post it, or there's other methods that they'll try and get to you. And always, if you're concerned, then send it on to us and we can look at it, or call the provider and say, hey, did you send me an invoice for this? Okay, some other ones that we have seen have been some AGL, Ergon, Australia Post, Australian Tax Office, the police, all those sorts of things are a way that they're using social engineering to try and get people to click on their links and then infect their computers. Okay, so how do we prevent this malicious software from running? So there's a couple of ways that you can try and protect your computer. First and predominantly is the Windows updates, and this can also be Mac updates and iPhone, Android updates. By applying the updates to your computer, you're actually preventing in a majority of the cases, this sort of stuff from running. So typically the bad guys will use known exploits in an operating system to try and get onto your system. So a really good way to protect yourself is to apply those updates. Secondly, make sure you have a good antivirus package. We recommend WebRoot, but also EZ and Trend Micro are good alternatives. A paid subscription is definitely the way to go. Whilst not 100% foolproof, they certainly do add that next layer of protection for you. Now, it looks a bit silly, Foolish IT. However, they have a great free product that you can apply to your system that prevents applications running from a certain location on your computer that the bad guys are known to use. If you're a managed client of ours, then we apply this policy to your systems and have done so. If you're not, or you have a home computer you'd like coverage, then foolishit.com is a great place, a great resource to apply. Pretty straightforward. If you have any issues with that, let us know. We can assist you in applying those policies. And fourthly, running and investing in a good UTM router. So UTM stands for Unified Threat Management, but basically it's a fancy way of saying a router that has some smarts to protect your network. So the router sits between you and the internet, and by having some policies in place on that device, you can prevent infections from phoning home and even coming into your network in the first place. So talk to us about that. We can recommend some really good products in that space. Alrighty, number 3, restrict access to your computer account. So in a majority of cases where we see an infection is typically because the user account that someone is using is a local administrator. So that means that they have administration rights on that computer to run and do anything on the system. By changing your account to a standard user, you severely restrict the ability of applications and bad things happening on your system. Now, it's relatively easy to do. You can do this by, if it's a home computer, for instance, or not part of a domain, you can go to the control panel, user accounts, and then change account type from administrator to standard user. And this will certainly go a long way towards protecting your system. In a domain or a larger network, you can actually apply policies across all your computers to make sure that the infection or that things can't be run as an administrator on your network. So that's a really good thing to try also. Okay, avoid unknown networks. I'll try that again. Avoid unknown networks. So a paid or free wireless hotspots are not secure. Okay, there's no guarantee that there is not your traffic being intercepted on those networks. So I'll say that again. Even if it is a paid or a free hotspot, you do run the risk of your traffic being intercepted, what we call man-in-the-middle attack, where someone is listening on the same network as you and intercepting your traffic and interpreting it. So say I connect to a hotel hotspot or the hotel wireless and then go to internet banking, there is a risk that someone can intercept that traffic and obtain credentials and access to that site. So our alternative that we recommend is to hotspot from your mobile device. The best method, rather than using a wireless or Bluetooth connection, is actually to use the physical cable to hotspot your laptop or tablet so that you can get online. That is a more secure method because it is direct through your carrier, such as Telstra, Vodafone, Optus, etc. Alrighty, number 5, mobile devices. So make sure you have a passcode on all your mobile devices. Increasingly what we're finding is that there's so much more information on your mobiles, email accounts, applications that have credentials such as internet banking, Facebook, whatever it might be. If that device gets lost or someone gets their hands on it, then they often have direct access to that information and can then go on to do other things. So what we recommend is always having a passcode on as a minimum, so that if your device is lost, it needs to be cracked for someone to get in. Someone needs to try and guess that password. But then also to enable Find My iPhone for the Apple devices or the Google Device Manager for Android that allow you to control that device. You can remotely wipe it. You can send a command to that device when it next connects to the internet to say, hey, wipe everything off this. I don't want anyone to get it. It also helps you find it if you've lost it. It'll give you a tracking option on a map. And then thirdly, if you're using Microsoft Exchange or Office 365, there is the ability to set remote wipe, which allows us to wipe the business data off those devices. So there's some pretty easy things that you can go and implement that increase your security with those sorts of things across your mobile devices, your tablets, but also your kids' mobiles and devices there as well. Alrighty, passwords. Everyone hates passwords. I certainly do. We have so many of them. However, using a product such as RoboForm or LastPass, which allows you to store and record your passwords, means that you don't need to remember them. Now, these are great. You can install the application on a mobile device, a tablet, your PC, a laptop, and your Mac device, and also through the websites. Now, what they allow you to do is have a master password that then gives you access to your other passwords. Beauty of that is that you can have very long, complicated passwords for the sites that you regularly use that you don't need to remember, because all you need is the master password. Now, the caveat with that is that master password must be very long and secure and complex. So things like a special phrase, I don't like viruses, is the example there. Substituting some vowels for numbers and some spaces and an exclamation mark makes that relatively complex. So the key tips there are make sure it's a long password with capitals and lowercase, numbers and special characters like hashes, exclamations, spaces is one as well. So some easy ways there to get some protection for you. All right, backup. So it is inevitable that a system can be compromised by a cybersecurity attack. Certainly it would be foolish for someone to say that you have 100% protection. The bad guys are continually evolving their attack methods, and so having a really good backup in many cases is the only way to recover after you've had a cybersecurity attack. So the golden rule that I have is 3, 2, 1. So 3 copies of your data. That means the original sitting on the server, laptop or PC where it was made, and then 2 other copies of that file. So the saying goes, 1 is none and 2 is 1. It basically means if the file on your device gets encrypted or lost or corrupted, then you have 2 other copies. Now, if you only had 1 other copy and it didn't work, then you had nothing. So you're really making sure you've got multiple copies is a really important factor here. Then also having 2 different media types. So hard drives can fail, backup devices, network attached storage devices can fail, DVDs can be unreadable. So making sure you have 2 different types of media that it's stored on is a really good method. For example, say you have a QuickBooks company file, making sure you've got a copy on a USB key, but then also on a network drive somewhere else is a good way of making sure you've got multiple copies. And then thirdly, making sure you have an off-site copy. Now, this is off-site disconnected copy, in that if it is not on your premises, it is somewhere else where it is not connected to anything, so that in the event that you get compromised and a bad guy gets on your system, they're getting smart enough now that they are encrypting network drives and backup drives. So if you have one off-site, then that is the key to your business, the gold. So, we recommend a solution by something like a Shadow Protect software or a data device that allows us to back up to a network drive and then replicate either to USB or to a cloud service. So we get those 3, 2, 1 copies of your data that give us the ability to recover. So that's really, really important. Alrighty. So number 8, carry out a security review. Okay, so you need to understand that the threat is constantly evolving, and as a business owner or important or active person in the business, you need to take ownership and raise awareness of the threat in your business. So don't just assume that the IT guy has it covered. Make sure you ask the question, hey, are we adequately protected? How? What's the plan if we get attacked? And so some things that you need to be aware of is, what are your passwords? Who has access to them? Where are the backups? How do we get them? What's the recovery method? Do we have a business continuity plan in the event that we do get corrupted or attacked? So this needs to be regularly reviewed with your IT consultant. It's not just a set and forget thing. The bad guys are continually evolving their types of attacks, so you also need to continually review your situation there. Another thing that you can consider is penetration testing, which is engaging a security consultant to try and get into your network. And this is a really good way to test your physical security, your processes, your staff, to see whether they are adequately taking measures not to get attacked. Every network is attackable, but it just the level that you get is, can be tested by these guys, and you can get some good results there. So if you're interested in that, let us know. We can put you in touch with some really great consultants there who can help in this space. Okay, so as a business owner or interested person, you have yourself covered, but educating your staff, friends and family is really critical. Okay, so because they're the people that invariably get the email and click on a link, or have a computer that gets compromised, or plug in or go to a website that's bad. So what we need to do is make sure all our staff and friends and family are aware of the issues. That's kids included, and so let people know about what the risk is. In the example of that large local retailer that cost them quite a bit of money to recover, a staff member saw something on a computer that wasn't right, didn't mention it to anyone. A couple of days later, that entire network is compromised. So if your staff are aware and know the processes that you have in place of dealing with cybersecurity attacks, that's a really good way to try and cut things off before they get too sinister. And obviously another great resource is the Stay Smart Online website from the Australian government, which also had that small business guide that I referenced earlier with the types of threats. And it's a fantastic resource. It's easy to understand, clear English language, great for everyone to review to get some further info about cybersecurity. Alrighty, number 10 is a hot topic at the moment, and that is cybersecurity insurance. So in the last 6 to 12 months, this has really grown as an area for insurers to get coverage for you. Lots of new products and offerings out there in the market, and can be particularly affordable for smaller businesses to get some coverage. So if you take into effect lost income, revenue and time to recover, plus the cost for someone to actually, an IT consultant, to fix your computer, it can very quickly add up. So having cybersecurity insurance is a really cheap way to cover yourself in this space. So things that you need to look for with your insurer: make sure you have virus, hacking and extortion cover, and liability and data loss cover, cyber business interruption. So say your system gets hacked, you can't access your database, how are you going to service your clients? Well, potentially you're losing revenue for not being able to, so maybe some coverage there as well. Extortion recovery costs, so that's the payments and cost to mediate and manage that issue for you. And also privacy fines and investigation costs, and also defence and investigation. Now, it's important to note that there is legislation slated for the end of this year that's talking about mandatory reporting for businesses with turnover greater than 3 million of any cybersecurity attack. So penalties there around 340,000 and for an individual and 1.7 million for a company. So cyber insurance that covers that really is cheap insurance to protect yourself in that space. So certainly worth talking to your insurance advisor. We use and recommend Axiom Insurance, in particular Daniel from Axiom. He's been excellent in investigating our needs as an IT consultancy and making sure that we've got the correct coverage for the type of business we do. So it took quite a lot of time to review our business processes and procedures and our agreements to make sure that we had adequate coverage for the type of work we're doing. And I would say that almost every business needs to have some sort of coverage in their space. I think it's really critical to do so. So talk to Dan there. He's fantastic. He'll be able to point you in the right direction. All right, guys, that's about all I have. We've ripped through that there today, but look, any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Okay, so you can find more out about me and IT for small businesses through us at our website, digitit.com.au. I'm on LinkedIn as Ben Dampney, on Facebook as DigitIT, and also I co-host the Small Business Technology Show podcast, which is a recording that Ben Love and I do talking about issues around IT for small businesses. One of the topics we have covered is security, and there's a bunch of others there that you might find interesting for your business. So smallbusinesstechshow.com. And secondly, I guess we're also looking to do more regular webinars. So if there's any ideas that you have for an upcoming webinar that you'd like us to discuss in depth, we'd certainly be more than happy to receive those. So just send me an email, ben@digitit.com.au. Next podcast is slated to be Outlook Pro tips with some ideas and tips to help you really utilise Outlook a bit better. So thank you very much for attending. Hope you got something out of today. And as always, stay in touch. Thank you.